Hello and welcome to the first Augury Devlog video. In today's video we're going to be showing you how a caffeine addiction and 6 years of lazy work practices equals an unreleased game and $5,000 in debt. Stay tuned.
Hello, and welcome to the journey that we call the development of Augury. I'm Chess Rowe.
And I'm Dustin Nasalrod, and together we make up Cataclysmic Studios. As you can see from our little intro, this has been a nightmare video in the making, but we are finally here to show you our project.
Augury is a procedurally generated open-world RTS game set in a medieval fantasy world. The game is about building a colony in an uncharted land and discovering its secrets, traveling deep within the earth in search of riches and an ancient evil. You must defend your colony from a variety of different enemies and battle bosses as you progress further into the land. Harvest rare resources to upgrade your colony and better equip your workers and guardians. The story of Augury is about an adventurer that starts to have vivid dreams where he is visited by a seemingly angelic being, warning of a horror and evil in a far-off land that threatens to usher in the apocalypse. Over time, the man starts to believe that the dreams are actually real, and this being convinces the man to take a slim crew and sail out in hopes of finding the land that it speaks of. This land is inhabited by goblins and other beasts on the surface, with sparse ruins of some ancient civilization scattered across its great temporal forest. This being convinces the man that he must travel deep down to the bottom of the world where the evil resides, and he must defeat it. I'm a programmer and the composer for Augury. I've been programming since I was about 12 years old, using GameMaker almost exclusively since version 7. Although dabbling in ActionScript and a couple of higher level languages, I never got very far with those. Throughout that time, I've worked on countless smaller projects, doing all of the art and sound myself. I also released an Android game to the Play Store a few years back.
Dude, what are you doing?
I met Dustin in middle school, and after introducing him to GameMaker, we eventually started collaborating on projects together. Starting a tower defense game with a few unique ideas, but eventually losing the up-to-date source because of a Dropbox error. We then started working on a co-op survival game, but lost interest in it soon afterwards.
As Chess stated, we met in middle school, and from that, he was the inspiration for me to pick up programming. I started trying to learn Java, which was a big mistake, but eventually found my way using GameMaker 8 with some help from Chess. After that, I started making small games as well as working on an overly ambitious RPG game where I finished character customization and town AI movement just to drop the project entirely. That's when Chess and I started Road to Conquest, the procedural tower defense game that never ended for phones. After losing the files, the survival genre was our next task, but we never got very far. At this point, I was discouraged from making games, so I shifted focus on other projects, such as apps for iOS that never released. Finally, after moving on to college, I began to understand the fundamentals of computer science and higher level languages.
The idea for Augury came about originally in 2014 after working on a slew of other unfinished projects. I had recently started working a full-time job for the first time, and I knew I wanted to create something more serious and invest money into getting professional artwork and sound design for this project. The original idea for Augury was a 2D RTS tower defense game that was co-op. By the middle of 2015, that idea had evolved, and like many other younger, aspiring game developers, I fell into the trap of making a game that was way too ambitious for one developer to handle. Nevertheless, I soon found an artist, an animator, and a sound designer for the project and began investing money into those assets. As time went on, I began to feel burnt out with the project. I then went on about a 2-year hiatus before deciding to pick the project back up. By that time, I had convinced Dustin to join the project to help with programming, and things were starting to pick back up again. Although at this time, the original artists had moved on and were no longer interested in working on the project. One of them was able to refer us to his friend, who is now an artist and animator for the project.
I have followed the development of Augury very closely since the beginning, helping here and there. About 2 years ago, after Chess decided to end his hiatus and pick the project up again, I decided to join the team and take a larger role in the game's development, mainly to relieve some of the work off of Chess, but also because I was missing game development. At that point, the game was a vertical slice of what the final project will be. Taking a look at the code, I knew some things would never work once expanded on. I took on the task of rewriting many of the core systems, such as the camera movement and the movement of workers. Even now, these systems are in need of tweaking. However, my current focus is on rewriting the procedural generating world from the ground up. But more on that later.
I want to give a huge shout out to Alias and Sebastian, who were the original artists on the project and helped establish the art style for Augury, as well as David, who created all of our current sound design in the game. Our current artists, Leo, Dan, and Jackson, are doing an amazing job furthering the project, and without them, Augury would not be able to continue. The development of the project has been going steady for the last 2 years, and we are finally ready to show you what we've been working on. A lot of the core systems for the game's characters have been completed. This includes unit movement, resource gathering, building construction, and hunger, as well as general NPC functionality. I have also created a modular sprite system for varying NPC and enemy appearances. Systems for the game's structures have also been completed. This includes upgrading and item storage for specific structures. Over time, these systems have been revised and optimized, and they are slowly heading towards completion.
Since becoming part of the team, I have mainly focused on rewrites to older systems. My first system rewrite was the camera system. Rewriting this part of the game not only made the camera movement feel much more smooth, but also helped with optimization since we now know what's inside and outside of the camera region instead of just terrain. Then came rewriting the way the NPC's path on the ground that no longer exists outside of the camera region. And now, finally, I've been working on rewriting the terrain generation. This will cause minor rewrites to the previous two systems, but in the long run it will cause the terrain and game in general to feel more organic.
I am currently working on developer tools to make debugging and developing new systems much easier, and I am almost finished. After that, I am working on implementing a whole slew of environmental art, all thanks to the awesome work Dan has been doing over the past couple of months. And this is going to give the game a much needed facelift and will help drive the game closer to its final look.
The current progress of the terrain generation has had to take a seat on the back burner since the beginning of the year. I currently volunteer for a robotics team that has been taking up most of my time. However, with the virus going around, I have 3 to 4 nice long weeks to work on finishing up the surface generation and begin working on cave generation. GameMaker doesn't have an implementation of Perlin noise, so I had to implement my own. After 3 to 4 different experiments, I finally settled on one implementation. Then came the biomes, which threw everything out of order. After going back and forth, I decided to start working on the file system and save structure, working side by side with the terrain generation.
Augury has come such a long way since the original idea back in 2014, and over the coming months we are going to be hard at work implementing new systems into the game and finalizing the core gameplay loop. We are excited to share these updates with you as we strive to make Augury the best game it can possibly be. It's going to be a long and expensive journey ahead of us, but we are excited to bring you along with us.
Being new to creating devlogs, we are in the process of learning how much updated work should be finished before working on a new video. As such, we will check in 2 weeks if we feel we have enough to show justification of making a new devlog. The maximum amount of time that we want to spend between videos would be a month. We want to keep those interested in our project up to date, while at the same time focusing on making the game. As it stands, we are now 3 weeks into making this first video. However, future videos will be much less information dense without the introductions and backstory. If you like our work and want to follow along, please subscribe to this YouTube channel as well as join our Discord. We also have a Patreon page that will give you some special perks such as access to pre-release builds as well as behind-the-scenes content not found here. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and comment you're interested in our project. Thanks, and see you in the next video.